All right, we're back on. We have a new
Woohoo!
guest in town, Alicia. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, no,
Thank you
you're
for
you're the
joining
first
us. Thank you
guest.
for joining us.
Absolutely. All the way from Australia.
Australia down under.
We got three
Down
different
under.
destinations here. We got three different places where we're from here. So we got Canada, the States, Florida, and Australia. I love it.
That's right. Get to
It's
know
awesome.
Love
we're
it.
trying to become worldwide here.
Yeah.
Alicia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so from Australia. I'm currently actually living in Queensland. I'm a big surf lover, beach lover, heat lover. So I never actually grew up near the beach, and I grew up down south in Melbourne. And I lived there up until I was 21. And then I actually left Melbourne and moved to Sydney for my dream job at the time in public relations.
Nice.
So I was living there for 2 years.
Nice.
I loved my experience at the time, but I just got very sick of corporate life, and basically decided after 3 years working in PR communications that it wasn't for me. So my future dream at the time was to move to Spain. So ended up moving to Spain for a year. Then my visa expired, came back to Australia about a year ago, and I'm back in Queensland. So
Wow.
Nice.
So how was that transition going from Australia to Spain? Like the language, the culture, I mean, was it a complete culture shock? Did you know people there? I mean, how was that transition? How did that go?
yeah, it was. Do you know what's really interesting? It's a lot of people have asked me this before too, and I'd actually visualized being in Spain for such a long time that when I actually started living it, it was as if like, oh yeah, like I've done this before,
Like
but in my
deja
head.
vu.
Yeah, like really, really massive deja vu. And it wasn't my first time in Spain. So I've been a big travel lover for a while. I caught the travel bug quite young. So when I finished school, I took a gap year at 18, and I was traveling around Europe for 4.5 months back then. And I visited Spain for the first time back then in Barcelona and Ibiza, which were incredible. And then the second time I went to Spain was during university, and I actually took advantage of a short-term intensive Spanish study tour for 7 or 8 weeks that went for, and that was in the south of Spain in Granada. And that was actually where my love for Spain sort of started growing. And it was just at that time, I remember I was looking over at this beautiful lookout spot, looking over at the Alhambra with the San. It was called the San Mirador Nicholas Lookout. And I remember I had this feeling of just being at home, and it was nothing I'd ever felt before. And I knew in that moment, that was back in the beginning of 2015, and I knew in that moment that I would come back to Spain and live at one point. I just didn't know when. So fast forward three years later, that's when I was living in Madrid. Or about 3.5 years later. And yeah, it was, to me, it's really interesting because I actually feel more at home in Spain than I do in Australia. It's really bizarre.
Wow.
Oh,
Nice.
So I just absolutely love the people, connect with the people so easily. The language is so beautiful. It's the most beautiful language I've ever heard. I absolutely love the Spanish language. The culture is incredible. I love the dancing. I love, that not just females love dancing, but
definitely.
males love dancing. Sort of the Latino vibes over there too. I've always loved salsa dancing too. I did that a lot in Australia, and I did it quite often when I was over in Spain. The food's incredible.
I'm sorry. I'm
What
sorry.
I've heard, yeah.
I had to throw this in there. I heard they do tapas, right? It's like tapas everywhere you go.
Tapas, yes. Oh my gosh, honestly, yeah, I could eat tapas for days. It's just incredible over there, and
I heard the
it's
seafood
so
over there.
So,
yeah.
Alyssa, you basically manifested your visualization is exactly what kind of according to your visualization, you just kind of manifested it and just brought it to the forefront.
Yeah,
That's
it's
kind of neat, isn't it?
that's sort of what it was like, actually. Yeah, it was a pure, at the time I didn't realize that I was manifesting. I didn't really know of manifestation at that time in my life, but when I look back at it, I think, yeah, that definitely was a type of manifesting, and you know, this type of visualization came true. And I remember when I was really living in Madrid, and I had my own apartment, and I had all my Spanish friends, and I was working, because I actually became an English teacher, so I was working in an academy. So I wasn't just studying there. I wasn't a student. I was actually living the Spanish lifestyle, and in my head, it just, there were days where I'd wake up and I just have to pinch myself, because I was fully living this visualization, this dream that I'd had for so many years, since the second time I was in Spain. And I didn't want to come back to Australia, but my visa expired, so I was like, I should probably go see my family anyway for a while.
That is so cool.
That's so awesome.
Beautiful country, such a beautiful country. Although I am actually waiting for my Hungarian passport, though. My grandfather's actually Hungarian, so I'm technically a quarter Hungarian, a quarter European. So that's probably where the European pool comes from.
Right.
And my plan is to eventually go back and live over there longer term. So I should get my passport by early next year, but obviously, depending on this whole situation, you know, we'll just sort of see what happens.
What other countries have you visited besides what other countries have you visited besides Spain?
So back in 2012 was when I did a lot of Europe. So that was at 18, and I did 20 countries around Europe in 4.5 months, which was incredible. One of the best years of my life. Gained so much weight, almost lost my teeth, but no regrets. Like, it was incredible. But then I've done a bit of Asia. So I've done like Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Bali, Thailand. I actually did a study tour during university as well in Malaysia and Singapore. So I was actually accepted into a communications study tour related to PR consultancies. So we actually worked with another university and collaborated with them in relation to a TV show and a media relations program. And that was quite cool, actually, seeing how PR was used in different cultures, very different to Australia. And it was really cool to sort of work in a completely different context as well. But yeah, New Zealand, Fiji. It was 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been 2 years now. I did the US for the first time, saw a little bit of the US, Mexico for the first time, which was amazing. I could see myself living there short term. And the dream is to do South America. I haven't done any of South America yet, because I know that I'll want to stay. So that's why I haven't touched that side yet, because I'll want to live there for a bit.
Yeah, South America is beautiful. I was just there in January. Colombia, Central America, I guess you could say. But
did you have any favorites?
Yeah, I love Costa Rica. I love Colombia. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's
very amazing.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
You have to go. Once you go, you'll know.
100%. Yeah. And just, I love that I'll still be able to, sort of speak Spanish over in those countries and places too, which is so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It carries over pretty well. So a very similar culture. The food was just amazing everywhere you go. So if you're a foodie, you'll definitely enjoy that. So.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. I think that's one of the best culture experiences, going to a new city or country, is just enjoying the food and seeing how different everything is as well. That's one of the best things to do.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
you have something called the Academy of Travelers. Why don't you tell our viewers what exactly that is and what that's kind of all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so excited. I launched this brand, Academy for Travelers, in April this year. And basically it was first related to my English teaching. So back when I returned to Australia in August last year, in 2019, I brought my English teaching online, and I actually started teaching through an online marketplace. So similar to, like Fiverr, Upwork, those kind of places where you create a profile and then students actually come to you and book,
Like
they
a freelancer?
yeah, sort of like a
Uh-huh.
freelance teaching. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was sort of, like not enough money to keep me going. It was really just, side pocket money sort of thing per week. Even though you could sort of choose your own prices and things like that, you sort of had to build up your reputation and reviews and things like that before you got more regular students.
Yeah.
And so I started making some really beautiful relationships and students through this platform. And when I was talking to them and discussing with them what I was sort of thinking of doing with my teaching, was creating my own platform and my own brand. And all of my students that I had been speaking to for months, they were all like, oh yeah, that sounds amazing, you should do it. And it wasn't until one day where I was speaking to one of my students from Iran, and she had relocated to Brisbane in Australia, and she was asking me about my transition from Australia to Spain. And she was like, oh my gosh, but how did you move there by yourself? Like, how did you leave your family? How did you make friends? Like, didn't you get lonely? Like, how did you even find a job? Like, what about the language barrier? She was asking me all these questions.
Yeah.
And I was trying to help her like through the transition period that she was currently going through in Brisbane from Iran to Australia, so different countries. And anyway, I was sort of helping her through this, guiding her with a few things of, how to make friends here, and specifically how to communicate with other people, things like that. And then she actually asked me, do you do coaching? Like, are you a coach or something with this? And I was like, oh, no, but I do actually have these types of conversations a lot because I'm just incredibly passionate about it. And
Yeah.
I've moved quite a few times now that it's quite sort of second nature to me now in, finding work, finding new friends, language barriers, all that kind of thing. And that was when I was like, you know what, I really would love to do something with transition coaching or transformation coaching. And that's basically how I put together the two with the Academy for Travelers brand. So basically, Academy for Travelers is on the one side, it's for English learners. It's an English confidence academy. So it's for English learners to improve their communication, confidence, more so for intermediate to advanced students.
Right.
And on the other side, it's also a mindful travel and transition academy, where I'm actually basically helping my clients with the transition period from moving from a country into a completely new city or culture, and helping them with, all the fears and challenges they faced that I've also previously faced in my experience of moving to different places too. So language barriers, overcoming loneliness, overcoming homesickness, how do you actually make friends with locals instead of just hanging around with internationals? How do you actually live that real local lifestyle and meet people? And how do you find work? And is it possible to, like, do you need a lot of savings to move to a new country? All these kinds of things that
like the term lost in translation kind of thing they say when you're traveling, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole, I mean, I definitely think there's so many more opportunities than challenges when moving to a new place. I think there's so many incredible new doors that open for you. But with that being said, there's definitely challenges. I've, even moving to Madrid, with the biggest thing was obviously the language barrier in the beginning. But I was able to sort of, get through that after slowly learning, more of the basics, becoming more acclimatized and accustomed with my Spanish friends that I'd made, who were helping me, being really patient with me. And you pick up so many different things from the different people that you meet and the new cultures that you're that you face as well. So
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've been doing now, and how I've been helping my both students and my clients with all of this. So I'm so excited about it.
I got a
That's
question.
awesome.
When it comes to that, have you ever had any glitches when it comes to dealing with your clients if they come from a different country and have like language barriers? Like, let's just say they're trying to learn English.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that situation as far as with people, that are still learning English? Like, let's just say their English is very broken. Like, you just go like
Yeah.
from step one and you just try to like, reel them in just to get them better, just to make their English a little bit better, step by step, like baby steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Step by step, baby steps. And also, I always say to them, I totally, empathize and understand, because learning Spanish as well, I would, get to a bar with 5, 6 other Spanish speakers, and they would all be speaking Spanish so fast, so quickly. And I'd be sitting there, and I'm a very, like, normally an extroverted person and always, joining in on conversations. But I actually became quite introverted all of a sudden, when you've
Yeah.
got this different language, and you sit there and you're like,
The intimidation factor kicks in.
yeah, and you're like, I really want to say something, but I don't know how to say it.
Right, right,
And it
right,
just
right.
gets frustrating. And so I actually say to both my students and my clients now, I say, no one is ever judging you at all. They're actually they're so impressed that you're actually just trying to speak their language. And if you can have a really basic conversation, that's just super impressive in itself. Never be hard on yourself, because it's hard speaking a second language. And if you feel that you can't put any input into the conversation that's happening around you, just ask questions. So
Absolutely.
that's always the best
That's a
thing
good point, yeah.
that I used to do, is just learn questions off the top of your head, and just say things like, oh, that sounds really interesting, like, can you tell more
Yeah.
about the city that you just talked about? Or,
Yes.
oh,
Yep.
that book that you said, can you explain more about that? Or just ask questions, because you feel like you're part of the conversation, even if you're not actually giving a lot of input, if that
Right.
makes sense. That helps a
It's
lot.
just the small things that matter. Because, like, for
Yeah.
example, I know when I went to Thailand a year and a half ago, I know that I didn't really know any of the Thai language, so I learned bits and pieces, like little, like, hello or goodbye,
Yeah.
or you can't really shake hands, so instead of shaking hands, you always like bow down like that. And small stuff like that, I mean, they appreciate that. I mean, they know if you're American,
Absolutely.
if you're foreign, if you're from a different country, they know. Um,
Yeah.
but just the small gestures, it just really goes a long way. So I totally agree with what you're saying about that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And like, just smiling, as well, like our body
Oh yeah.
expressions, smiling.
Communication.
There's been so many times where, I can speak Spanish now and I understand it now. But for example, I've got Hungarian relatives who I've been to visit, and I don't understand one word. I don't understand one word of Hungarian. I can pick up some words just, throughout
I
conversation,
heard
but
that's
I
a
don't
tough
understand
language to
anything.
learn. Yeah, I heard it's a tough one.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, I
Absolutely
heard that's an
crazy.
extremely tough language
Yeah.
to learn.
It sounds like nothing. Like, for example, cheers is erga shoga dra. It's like, It just sounds like exactly.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I can't even repeat that one, man.
I know it's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah.
I love it though. I love it. But for example, like those types of languages, you know, and when you're put into those situations where you actually know nothing, you know, I would communicate via Google Translate, and we would communicate through hugging and just facial expressions, body language, and you can still really have beautiful relationships with people. Absolutely. Even if you're not physically, you know, conversing or communicating. It's doable. It's totally doable.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
I had another question here. Is what can you say? What is the most memorable or craziest moments you've had traveling? I know you had to have some stories.
Oh my gosh, it's hard to just say one. I have a few that I thought I'd mention, but okay. So memorable. The Teotihuacan pyramids just outside of Mexico City, absolutely mind-blowing. Mexico was a last-minute trip that I decided to do, and I had some of the most, I think because I was solo as well, and I hadn't traveled solo in a few years, that I just had some of the most spiritual awakenings of my life, and it's actually where I found mindfulness and meditation and gratitude. And this was 2 years ago now, and since then that's sort of where my love for mindfulness has really began in Mexico. And the Teotihuacan pyramids, oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. Like if you ever get to go to Mexico, you have to go there. I did the Grand Canyon. I flew over the Grand Canyon a couple of years ago. That was incredible. Another, like back in 2012 was like the gondolas in Venice. That was also another beautiful memory. Niagara Falls, the Canada side. So it was funny because I'm talking to someone from the US and Canada, and I'm like, Michael, you win this one. Winning. It was really interesting because Niagara Falls was never actually on my to-do list or any like to-see list, and the friend that I was with at the time, she really wanted to do it, and we ended up booking a tour. And I remember getting there, we were both so exhausted. We was like sleep deprived that day, and I was like, oh, this better be good. And we got to the US side, and look, it was beautiful. I was like, okay, yeah, like this is really beautiful, like, you know, really nice. I wasn't, you know, like mind blown. I wasn't like, oh my God, this is incredible. But I was like, yeah, this is really beautiful. But then we traveled across the bridge to the Canada side in Ontario. And that was when we like went up this tall building. And by this time I was like, I'm pretty ready to sleep now. Like I've seen Niagara Falls now. But we get up to this tower, walk out, and my jaw just drops open.
Right.
And oh my God, I was like, this was worth it. Okay, this is what I came to see. This was worth it.
It's a pretty crazy sight, yeah.
Oh my God, amazing. Yeah. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So that was definitely a memorable experience. What else? The Watamo caves in New Zealand with the glowworms.
What was that?
Absolutely incredible.
I've heard about those.
Oh my gosh, like you're basically going through a cave on these tube plastic tube things, and you're just floating down inside a cave in a river. Wow. I've got a bit of claustrophobia. So,
okay.
so I was a bit like, okay, like, you know, this is all good, I can do this. I was with my friend at the time, and she was with me, and she was like, it's fine, you'll be fine. And one of the scariest parts was having to, we get to this mini waterfall in a cave, and there's nowhere else to go. And the tour guide, he's like, oh, we have to jump. Like everyone has to jump down. Like it's not that far, maybe 5 meters. No, I don't know if it was 5 meters, probably like 3 meters or something. but it looked really, really high up, and that was terrifying. That was actually terrifying. This pitch black cave with like a waterfall that we could barely see. You could barely see where you were jumping into, and we had to jump down in our little floaty tube things. And then
Oh my god,
it was crazy.
anxiety just listening to you.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh my
But then
God.
you continue floating down. You have to sort of get through little crevices here and there. You know, the adrenaline was going quite fast at this point.
Go.
And then you eventually you get to this, oh my gosh, just you're floating down, and all of a sudden, you know, the tour guide, he's like, look up, everyone look up. And you look up, and it's as if you're in the universe all of a sudden, or the galaxy or something just crazy. It's
Like
just
a whole other
literally
dimension
like
kind of thing.
a whole nother dimension.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Like
Oh,
it
I
looked
just
like
pictured that right now.
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Those are just experiences that you just can never forget. You're just like,
Yeah. It was, you know, you have those sort of like the wow moments that you're just like, oh my God, yeah, how am I here right now? Or just, you know, like it's just so just wow. It's just, you know, those jaw-dropping moments.
Like I literally have an image of that. It just as you described that, because I've heard of these caves, and they're pretty significant. I'm not too sure of a lot of the history with them, but yeah, I heard that they're pretty spectacular, and there's a lot of history with that as well. And just kind of going back to the mindfulness and what you kind of said with the meditation and mindfulness and travel, you know, how it kind of brings you to that present moment when you travel. Like, at least for me too, when I'm traveling, I am super present, even more so than anywhere else I am.
I love that.
Yeah, you know, and just kind of like, what are your thoughts on travel being, you know, really good for a person's self-discovery and mindfulness? What are your thoughts on that? Like,
oh my gosh, it's just so powerful. It really is. It's so necessary. I genuinely think that it's better than going to university and studying a degree. I tell all my little cousins, all my younger cousins who haven't finished school yet, I say, whatever your parents tell you, don't listen to them. Just leave school and go traveling straight away.
Good advice, yeah.
Don't go to uni straight away. Like, I mean, fair enough if you want to become a doctor and you obviously, you know, you need a degree
you
for
still
those
need to go to
types
school,
of jobs, then of course, like
depending on what you're doing,
depending what you're doing. But most of the things these days we don't need degrees for. I genuinely didn't learn a lot at university. I have I think it's like a $70,000 degree that I still owe money to, and
wow,
all of my
70,000.
Yeah, university is expensive here.
Wow.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's luckily we don't have to pay it straight away. Like it's a little bit. Yeah, a little bit gets sort of taken out of your pay every now and again, but it's not something that we sort of have. It doesn't accumulate interest or anything like that, you know, lucky. Which is great, but it's very expensive to go to university. And so, yeah, I personally learnt, you know, so much from my work experiences. So when I was, you know, when I physically started working in the office and actually doing, you know, real life work experience, I obviously learnt a lot. But even, and, you know, internships, all that kind of stuff. But then through my travel experiences, that's just something that I don't know how much money I've spent on travel. But for me, it's more than an investment into just seeing a new place. It's actually an investment in yourself. Yes. And for me, it's been an investment in my confidence, my personal development, my relationships, how I communicate with people, what my values are now. Like, you know, I don't know how it is for you guys in the US and Canada, for example, but obviously both being Western society countries, you know, Australia too, we grow up in this very fast-paced working, you know, okay, go to university, get a job, work hard, you know, get
Yeah,
married,
it's the same kind
buy
of
a
thing.
house,
Yeah,
have children,
we,
done.
Right.
yeah,
Just
that's definitely the same thing.
live that, like I like to call it like I hate to say it, I used to call it the basic lifestyle, but you know what? You have to understand there are people who enjoy living that life where you just work, family life, and do it
Yeah.
all over again and just, retire and live a happy life. I just believe, like you just mentioned, Alicia, that I believe when you travel, you see the world, it just opens your mind, it just creates so many opportunities for you. You get to see meet other people, you get to see other places that that other than where you're originally from, and just learning the world in general, experiencing different
100%.
situations. Like I said, communicating with people, it could just do so much for you. And I totally
Yeah.
understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, no,
It's,
absolutely.
and if
I think it's
and
important.
oh, absolutely. And like I said, as coming from a teen and self-development coach, what kind of advice can you give for like the youth or like young people or teenagers and when they're trying to find themselves? Or if you can give an example, like when you were young, when you were a lot younger, like how was it? How was that decision of moving away from Australia and going to a different country? What type of steps do you need to take, or what kind of? Because I know it was very gut wrenching. It was a lot of effort to even do that. So, like, what kind of
Yeah.
advice would you give?
Um, yeah, I think especially because I first, did my solo traveling at 18, which was quite young, and I realized that I look back now and I'm like, yeah, actually that was quite young for me to go at 18, but uh I just it matured me very fast because there were times where I would get lost and I was by myself and I had to just deal with it. I had to deal with my emotions. I wouldn't get, there were definitely like in the beginning, I'd get panicked a little bit and I'd be like, oh
Yeah,
God, like I don't know where to go. And, this person can't speak English and blah, blah, blah. But I think the biggest thing is that you grow this resilience and you realize that you can seriously do things by yourself. Like you can really get around by yourself. It just grows your confidence immensely as well. I think after that was only a 4.5 month trip, and I got back to Australia in time for uni starting the following year. And I was actually one of very little people who had taken a gap year. And so I just had this completely different perspective when I got back to Australia and started university. And a lot of people were already sort of resenting starting uni because they were already so burnt out from high school, finishing high school. Whereas I was really excited to start uni because I just had this whole year off of trying to, figure out what I wanted to do and seeing all these different places, meeting all these different people. Uh, also realizing how lucky we are in Australia too. Like for example, when I was visiting my Hungarian relatives in Hungary, there was one day where I was getting money out at an ATM. It was about equivalent to 80 Australian dollars.
hmm
And I was only 18. My cousin was about 16. And he looked at me and he said, "Why are you getting out so much money?" And I was like, "Oh, well, like, I guess it's a lot of money. Like, it'll keep me going for the next few days or whatever." Because Hungary, in equivalent to Australia, was very cheap for us.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Hungary is a very poor country, probably still one of the poorest countries in Europe.
Okay.
And so my cousin, he looked at me and he's like, "No, Alyssa, you don't realize, like, that's how much money I earn in a week."
What?
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
That was massively eye-opening for
Yeah, they're
me.
just right there. Just it makes you realize you appreciate what you have, and you're lucky for what we all have. At the moment, because
100%.
there's a lot of countries out there that they're very less. They're not as fortunate as we are, and
Yeah.
we
That's
have
a
to remember
huge.
that. And
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, there's people out there that don't realize that. But when you see the world, because I know from when I went to Cambodia, that was a third world country. So imagine the people there, like when they see Americans, it's just like it's a
Right.
gold. It's just a complete gold mine for them.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
and like I said, my strength is that I care a lot for people. And if I can feed everybody there, if I can, provide as, a couple dollars here for everybody, I could, but I just couldn't. It was just very overwhelming for me. But I just love the experience. And like I just mentioned, that you just appreciate so much. And we should just be
Yeah.
appreciated for what we have, because there are a lot of people out there that don't have what we have. They're not able to do Zoom calls like we're doing right now. You know what I mean?
100%.
It makes sense. Yeah.
And I don't think I answered your question properly before. Sorry, Angel, about giving advice for teens. I would actually say that honestly, traveling before you start, whatever job you want to do, whatever career you want to get into, I actually think is so much more important than going straight into studying a degree, studying university, because honestly, you have to do the self-work first before anything. You have to know
Yes.
yourself, you have to understand what you want, like who you are, what your values are, what type of people you want to be around. And honestly, like if you actually do the traveling first and the self-discovery first, the self-care first, before the career, before the job, before whatever you want to do in your life, marriage, kids, anything like that, do that first, because that will seriously set you up for the best, most, you know, impactful life that you can
Or
have,
just
and meaningful, fulfillingful life.
right.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
well said. And
Yeah,
then it
because
just
I mean that was kind of my issue too. Like if maybe you've checked out the previous podcast, but I've mentioned before in the past that at 18 years old, like I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I didn't go to college. I felt pressure, enormous pressure from
Yeah.
other peers and teachers were like, so what are you going to do? What college are you going into? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I just want to finish high school. And I just went and worked for several years, 8 to be exact, before I had a general idea of what I wanted to kind of funnel it into to go into college and take. I mean, it just seems odd to me that some people could have it figured out or think they have it figured out at age 17.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like when I look
it's
back, it's like,
crazy.
there was no way I was going to do that and have it all just, this is what I want, as if it's like some grocery list. Go to college, get married, have kids by this certain age, as if it's like literally some structured rule in a grocery list that somebody made. And like self-discovery is very important. I think I'm grateful for the fact that even though 8 years for me was a long time after high school, because I thought I was, a whole late bloomer, but I look back and really that wasn't even that big of a deal at all. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's so great.
Yeah.
Did you end up you kept working and you didn't end up going back to study or anything?
I did. Yeah. I worked a bunch of different various jobs after high school. Some were labor, some were sales related. So I got a little bit of experience, but it just wasn't enough. I just wasn't feeling any like fulfillment or anything like that. So I went to school and I'm like, eventually I would like to just do my own thing. So why don't I go to school and take business? And I could do so much with that, because it's a general business education. I'm sure in Australia and in the US, Angel, is pretty broad. Is generally pretty broad knowledge of various different factors with business. So I went and I got a business degree and I majored in finance. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I thought, okay, I got all these student loans. I'll take finance and I'll get out of college and I'll get a job faster and I'll pay down this loan faster because I'll make all this money in finance, thinking, it was naive thinking at the time, right? So it was just not something I was passionate about. I mean, I should have majored in other things, but I was just thinking, paying down my student loan because I was more stressed from the pressure of that finishing. So I was a little bit of a late bloomer on that, but it took some time to figure out. It's a process. I mean, I don't think we ever have it all fully figured out. I mean, that's life in general. So.
And it's all about learning too, and that's why I think me and Mike, that's how we connected so much, because we kind of have like similar backgrounds, and I did the same thing when I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
I know I was working different types of jobs, trying to figure out myself as an individual. I didn't finish college until I was like really, what, 30?
Yeah, same here.
So, like it took
Yeah.
me a while. It really took me a while to really understand myself, to really know what I really wanted to do. And I know for a very long time, even in my 20s, I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how to go about it. So, like I said, like just like Mike mentioned, uh, I was working different types of jobs, trying to find my niche,
Yeah.
meeting people here, meeting people there, and some people were good, some people were, hey, I've seen you, and I won't talk to you guys again. But
Yeah.
um, I feel that now at the age where I'm at right now, I feel like I know my calling. I know what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yes.
and helping and making a difference and just making an impact in other people's lives is just what I really want to do. And I love the ride that we're going on, and I love the ride that I'm building out with my brand and with coaching teams and
Yes.
making them making them better individuals, and teaching them on ways of how to pick themselves up, where to lead them, how to guide them on that right direction, and share them with my story, where I came
Yeah.
from, what I learned, things
Yeah.
to do and not to do, take this direction, not that direction. So I've always been a follower. A lot of my life I've been a follower. Now I'm trying to become that leader that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. So I definitely,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with you too, Alicia, is that we want to give. That's our calling. That's what we need to do, is we need to give, because
To
I
give
believe
back to others and
to
help
give back to others, because I feel like
what we've overcome.
correct, because
Yeah.
if we don't do that, then what are we doing?
100%.
Well, that's
What are we
just
doing?
Yeah.
that's just it, dude. I mean, it's one of those things that happened for a reason. I'm grateful for the way it happened now, because now
Yeah.
I can actually tell my story and give back to clients, and actually give back to people as far as coaching, and kind of steer them into that right direction, who are people who are in similar situations as me, who feel like they have this pressure that, oh, they got to have it all done by a certain age, or they should be starting at a
Yeah.
certain age, when there's really, you don't have to follow any societal pressure
No.
at all. Like, no society pressure should be your influence on that.
I
So
totally agree with that, actually. Like
yeah.
it's funny what you said before, Michael, about how you felt like you were a late bloomer,
Yeah.
getting into your work and things like that. And Angel, how you said, I didn't finish uni until I was 30, and you sort of said that also in a way of like, that's also late bloomer. But it's like, but according to who?
Right,
According to
right,
society, according to this stupid Western culture that we've all grown up in,
Yeah.
that said, oh yes, you have to be, have your career and, have your house and married kid by 30 years old. And
Yeah.
it's such a, what is the problem when, we do grow up as teenagers too, is that no one asks us, what do you love? What are your passions?
yeah.
What do you love doing?
Exactly.
We don't get asked those questions, and it's so, so important. And yeah, it's just, like, I think, especially for teens, and I think it's just so important to provide that inspiration and that influence and just that pathway that allows them so many different directions, and that there's just not one that you just should take or you must take. And also be very careful with, the advice that you're taking from an older person. Just because they're older doesn't mean they're wiser. Look at their life and ask yourself,
100%.
are they living a life that I want to be
100%.
living?
Agreed. Is this something I want to model?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Look
Yeah.
at look, it's just all about, it's so funny you brought that up. It's all about building your inner circle. The people that you surround yourself,
100%.
Yeah.
the people that you surround
Yeah.
yourself with. That's
It's
where
kind of your vibe, right?
exactly.
Crucial.
Those are clues. Those are
Yeah.
clues of where you're gonna be going. Those are clues.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, if you get with people that you're interested, if you're interested interested in doing sports, traveling,
Yeah.
writing, drawing, you want to be an artist, you want to be a climber, you want to do whatever. If you're interested in
Yeah.
a certain thing, find people who have the same interests and
Yeah.
watch that inner circle grow. watch yourself where you're going to be going. Learn the craft. Learn who you are as a person.
Totally.
That's just like those are just basically
Totally.
development 101 right there.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we just mentioned being late bloomers, but like you just said, Alicia, to who?
Like, says who? Yeah,
Yeah.
says who.
40 years
Like,
old or whatever. You know what I mean? So
We're actually not late
still
bloomers.
walk.
Think about it,
Exactly.
but-
We can still walk. We can still talk. We can still do it.
Just do what you want to do. Do what makes you happy. Do what's great for your mental health. Like, surround yourself, with people who also help you grow, and you grow together, and you're teaching each other things. Like, that's so important. And it was actually one of the things that I learned as well when I during my time in Spain. It was just, and I think that's why, like, I just connect so, I don't know, I just feel so at home there, and I just connect so easily over there, is that they don't have that hustle and bustle culture over there. Their number one priority over there is being with their friends and family and enjoying life. That's their number one priority, which is incredible. And
it's so funny you mentioned that, because
they stay present.
Right.
Present. Exactly.
When I went to Europe, it was the same way. It's all about community with your friends, the people that you know. And they're like you just mentioned, Alicia, that the Europeans are very all about their family and their culture and food and everything, their surroundings. It's just, that's what they're all about. And it was a culture shock for me because I'm an American, so it's just like go to a different country and it's just like, oh wow, like this is so different to me.
So different, isn't it? Yeah.
So different. And it's for a quick example, I know, like for me, when I was in London, I went to a pub because I've always wanted to visit all these old pubs and this rich history of the English culture. And you will go to a pub over there, and I don't know, at least here in the US or in Australia and in Canada, people will be at a bar or at a pub, and everybody's on their phone.
Oh my gosh.
They're talking to one another. They're just on their phone. But when I was in London, I went to a pub and people were talking.
Yep.
They were genuinely talking.
Like, you mean face to face?
Yeah, like, what do you mean? Are you serious?
Face to face, I'm talking, right?
What is that?
I'm looking around. I'm like, oh man, this is great. The bar was just so loud. There was no TVs in these places. It was just so loud because people were just talking.
Nice.
I was like, I'm not used to this.
100%.
You've officially left the matrix.
That's just the from other people, from other cultures, other people. It's just like, whoa, man. No wonder sometimes we get a bad name.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's incredible. Even just how, I don't know if it's the same for you guys too, but even on you sit on a train, or even if you're walking around the city, and if it's like a lunch break or something, you see people rushing around quickly eating their lunch in between their work breaks and things like that. Whereas in Spain, it's this beautiful 2-hour sit down, relax, leave work for 2 hours, have a siesta, come back to work, or whatever it is.
Have a glass of wine, a little bit
have
of
a glass of wine,
a little bit of bread, boom.
So different.
That's how it was in Paris too. Same thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Sounds amazing.
I think it's also important as well to try and bring that, I definitely have brought back my more presence and more mindfulness when I've come back to Australia as well. I'm living in Queensland at the moment because I actually love Queensland. It's if I do see myself long-term in Australia, it would be in Queensland, just because I think the vibe up here is a lot more relaxed, especially because we're a very coastal town. There's a lot of chill surfer people and people walking around bare feet, and it's a lot more relaxed vibe up here. So that's why I love it here. But I've definitely brought my mindfulness and presence back here because it just, I don't want to lose that. And I don't want to, it's so easy to fall into into a bubble. Once again, depending on the people that you surround yourself with too, and that hustle, sort of culture and things like that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a mindset. It's like a muscle. It's like anything.
Yeah.
You got to kind of maintain that and work on it. And you got to
Absolutely.
kind of feed your mind with positive material, things that's going to kind of put you into those feel good vibrations. Your surroundings play a big role in that too. You want to kind of steer clear of the negativity. It's a mindset. It's like I said, training a muscle is training that mindfulness too. And it requires work.
100%. And actually, my favorite author, Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you guys have either read Power of Now and A New Earth. Amazing books.
Great author.
Amazing books. Yeah.
I like to read that book, the Power of Now. I actually have it in my bookshelf here.
And there you go. Start reading.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's great. It's amazing.
Great book.
He's just just watching him talk. It's just so soothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can make your anxiety just go out just like that by just listening to him talk. He talks slowly, but he's talking for you to understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
lots of good points in that book.
It's an incredible book. And just watching him, I like to watch YouTube a lot. So watching his videos on YouTube is incredible. I use that as a meditation. I'll just sit on my couch and I'm just watch and just hearing him talk. And it's just he's a very intelligent man.
I love that. He's amazing.
I was gonna say, I had a question, Alicia, for you. It's actually an interesting fact about Australia, and I'm pretty sure you know this, but is it true that 90% of Australians live on the coast?
I think it's 80%, but yeah, for something like that.
80%.
It's 80%. 87.65%. Yeah, no, that is true. That is true fact, actually, because the majority of the middle of Australia is just all desert. It's just all desert.
That's like the great. Okay, I see. That's something new that I learned about Australia. Didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's an interesting fact.
It's funny because when and it still blows my mind too how massive Australia is. Like I still can't believe how big it is here. But when I was living in Melbourne, for example, it would be quicker for me to fly to New Zealand than it would be to fly to Western Australia, Perth.
What? Really?
Seriously. It would be from Melbourne. I think it's about a 2-3 hour flight to to Auckland, New Zealand.
Okay.
A whole other country, but from Melbourne to Perth, 6 hours or 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, because Australia's huge.
It's just so big.
It's a big country. It's a massive country. Yeah, when you look at it geographically on the map or globe, it's ginormous.
Now, here's another one. Tasmania has the cleanest air in the world. Tasmania is that's.
Do you know what? I can believe that. Yeah, I could believe that actually. Look, they get a lot of like rain and downpour, which would probably provide a lot of, get rid of all the, I guess, all of the dirt and things like that. It is a very clean country, clean part. I think they've got some really beautiful, natural springs, mountains, beautiful hikes, things to do. What's it called? I think it's not the Glasshouse Mountains. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten the name. There's this really, really popular hiking part in Tasmania. I've never been, that's why I can't remember the name. I've never been, but I'd love to go one day. But very well known for the hikes down there. So I can believe it's got some of the world's cleanest air. I could believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's good to know.
Those are like interesting facts I really didn't know about Australia. I find Australia very fascinating. I'm hoping one day I could just go visit.
It's on my bucket list for sure. It's my top
definitely
5.
A bucket list
on my top 5. Yeah.
Well, you've got a free tour guide down here, guys. Now, if you're here in Australia while I'm still here, free tour guide.
We're all gonna make a big group and just go visit Alicia in Australia.
Yeah.
I had a question too there. So like in relation to traveling, and for me, fitness and exercise is super important to me. I mean, I can go a couple of days, But to me, like I like to incorporate fitness somewhere while I'm traveling, you know, just to kind of have that nice morning energy, or just kind of that nice release of endorphins or whatever the case, just that those feel good vibrations of exercise. So when traveling, which can be a challenge for a lot of people, is finding ways to fit, you know, a lot of fitness into their schedule and whatnot. What, you know, what works kind of for you, since you've kind of developed this, and what is kind of the challenge for some people who would kind of be looking into that when they go to a certain different destination? What would be the first thing you should probably do if like there's no gyms around, or like, depending on where you're going, of course, I guess it would really kind of factor that in. But what would kind of be, you know, the best resource that you would kind of advise to people looking for something like that as a top priority, or to prioritize during their trip?
Really good question.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you asked that, Michael, because I'm actually a big fitness junkie as well. I'm a big gym goer, and I can't go a few days without gym either. So
Right.
this is a big challenge for sure. When I am traveling, I am the type of person to join a gym short term. If I'm in a place for even if it is like a week or a couple of weeks, I am that person that will, if I can get like a weekly pass or something, I'll do it. Just because for me, it's a type of meditation. It's a type of, you know, just self-care for myself that I love, and
100%.
that I need. However, I have been in places that there are no gyms. So what I have used previously, and is actually a really great free app that you can download on your phone, is the Nike app, and really great. It's got so many free workouts that you can just follow. They do little videos, really easy to use. So I've used that in the past when I haven't found any gyms around. Or I will also go for runs. So if the place is not too hot, or it's not during summertime, I like to go for runs or jogs, which, to be honest, is actually a really another cool way of just seeing the area and just seeing where you are. Whether maybe it's a hike as well, going for big, you know, hikes, things like that too. You know, so yeah, I think if people get stuck with exercise, Nike app is really great.
I've used it.
Yeah, just
That's really good
runs,
to know. I've never
hikes.
heard of it. Yeah, I never knew that they had something geared towards exercising for people through an app. That's kind of neat to know.
Yeah, there's actually a running one, and there's also like a sort of a weight based strength training one too. So they have ones that you can use if you have no equipment, and then they've got other ones that you have if you have equipment. It's really cool, really cool little app. And I actually sometimes try and find, for example, if I'm in a park or something, you know, if there's a bench, and I'll do, you know, like step ups, or try and do like jump squats on the bench or something like that. If you're getting sick of walking or running and you want to try and just do some more strength based things too, push ups, obviously. Sometimes if you can find a park, or if you find like a bar. I remember I was in Puerto Escondido in Mexico, and it was way too hot to go running. Like, it was, I had no motivation because it was just so hot. But I found this, it was like a bar that was in the, not like a drinking bar, like an actual bar that was, in the hostel.
Right.
And I was actually trying to do like small pull-ups on the bar inside the hostel.
You gotta improvise.
You got to improvise sometimes, even if you get weird looks.
It's got to be done.
Gotta do sometimes.
Got to be done, guys. Got to get those gains.
It's like, just a few more reps.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so funny.
If I'm in an Airbnb, I'm all about doing my 100 sit-ups, my 100 push-ups, and try to get it running. You call it a day if I'm on vacation.
I've done hotel.
I'm visiting other places.
Yeah. I've made like hotel rooms like into a circuit training, you know, just
Oh
with
my
the beds
gosh.
and the chairs. Like, you know, if there's nothing else and gym was closed or was late, I
Yeah.
always like turn it into like a little circuit training of some sort, just get creative with it.
So
Yeah, that's
look at me,
awesome.
look where we're at now, where the whole world's going under the whole pandemic and everything like that. Now you got to really improvise. Because what if your gym is
Yeah.
closed?
I've had to do that too for three
Imagine
and a half
that.
months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
90 days.
Now,
90 days I was without a gym. God, that was awful.
Yeah.
yeah, me
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had
Yeah.
weights in my garage.
Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
pull-up bar and some cables and some free weights, but that was about it. I mean, it was nothing like the gym. The gym, just being back in the gym last week for the first
Oh,
time, like the best feeling on earth.
100%. I
So,
totally agree.
so when you're traveling, I figure, you know, like a lot of our listeners are, you know, are very fitness focused too, and they like to kind of, you know, get outside or get out and be physical when it comes to travel as well. Because I mean, it's gonna make your trip that much better too, because you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna sleep better.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean that's definitely something that I'm sure comes up as a challenge, especially traveling to certain countries where gyms are a little bit more scarce. So
Yeah.
yeah,
100%. Yeah, it's good to get creative like that and create your own little circuits, workouts. And even if you know if you've got maybe someone you're staying with, or you meet someone in a hostel and they have a similar love for, you know, fitness as well, just do things together. Just, you know,
yeah,
it's more fun when you've got a bit of a workout buddy too. So
an accountability partner.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
awesome.
good question. I love that.
About meeting people and just getting things done, really.
It's the
Yeah.
experience. The experience is so, you know, just priceless, right? So
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And you do, you sort of, the more that you, I guess, go without these things, the more that you learn, and you learn to improvise, and you do learn to be creative, and you realize that you can go, you know, you can go along um with the bare minimum sometimes. You know, there's not a lot that we need in life to move forward. There's not a lot that we need, even, you know, materialistically as well. Gosh, like I've become the biggest minimalist after
yeah,
moving several times now, because I just don't want to move. I just don't want to, you know, pack another heavy bag and lug all these like big bags everywhere. I'm just like, nah, the less the
That's the
better,
better.
the more less stressful.
right.
Minimalist living is so great.
And that
Yeah.
just seems to be like the new thing nowadays. You know, it's just being a
It is, isn't
minimalist
it?
and everything like
Marie
that.
Kondo. What was that her name? Marie Kondo. Yeah,
It's awesome.
so good.
Well, Alicia, I really appreciate you, and thank you for joining us in this podcast, and you being our first guest. I really appreciate that.
No,
Yeah,
I've loved this.
It
Thank
was
you so
fun.
much for having me. I've loved
Fun.
it. I really loved it.
Hopefully we can do it again in the near future. But
Absolutely.
before we go, you want to like introduce the Academy for Travelers and anything you want to share?
Well, you can find me at Academy for Travelers _Alyssa on Instagram if you want to connect with me there. I'm quite active on there, and always happy to connect with new people. And, you know, if you have a question for me, like I'll always respond to my messages on there. But otherwise, yeah, academyfortravelers.com. We've got a little Facebook community group on Facebook as well, where you can find us. And otherwise, yeah, I think my, you know, for any people out there that, you know, you want to go traveling, or you feel like you could move to a different city or a different country, just do it. Life's too short. I
Yeah.
promise that you'll just learn so much about yourself. You'll just grow so much, you know, independence and self-confidence. And by having those two things, you can genuinely put your mind to anything and do anything you want in life. And just meeting new people as well. Just put yourself out there. You know, be open to meeting people of different cultures, different nationalities, and it's the best education, I can promise you. It's just incredible what you learn. And yeah,
Love
so
that.
Thank you
That's
guys
awesome.
so much for having me on here.
Well
I've really
said.
loved this.
Well said.
Yeah, we'll include some links in the caption there below on how to find
Awesome.
Alyssa and her Academy for Travelers. So we'll provide all that down in the information below. So check that out. And yeah, leave a comment if you have any questions for her or ourselves. You know, we'd love to hear from you. So yeah,
Sure.
it was
Thanks
awesome.
so much, guys.
All
Good to
right.
speak with you.
So these guys.
Okay, take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.